Yeah, maybe policy-wise, I would do better under the Democrats or Bernie Sanders. But these other people just seem fucking crazy. They seem like committed to just going to absurd lengths just for shits and giggles, just for the fuck of it, just this bizarre attachment to things that are just ridiculous. To your point about, is he just crazy? When you meet him in person and spend that kind of time, and he's not on his his attack mode thing, he does not strike you as a crazy person or a person who doesn't listen or can't hear things. Again, they were very mad at me for saying this, but that's what happened. And I am not a liar.
Bill Maher recently had a lively conversation with right-wing commentator Tim P. You might think their political differences would be the main source of tension, but actually Maher spent most of his criticism on the Democrats. He's been so tough on the DNC lately, it wouldn't be surprising if he ended up supporting the GOP in 2028. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy bold and honest political talk, hit subscribe and let's get started.
I just don't feel like anybody in this country can even presume that what people think about them is anywhere near the truth. And if you do think that, you're very naive, and people are just going to want to believe. Somebody told me just the other day that, speaking of girlfriends, this one is funny. This one wasn't in that list, but they could have put it there. But somebody, they were out to dinner with a few people, and this person said that I used to date Ann Coulter.
I've heard that.
Which.
I've heard it.
Okay, well, it's not true. And both of us would say that. Now, am I friends with her? Yes. And anyone who doesn't like that can go fuck themselves. I'll be friends with whoever I want. I think I proved that over and over again, including with Donald Trump. You know, I believe in talking to people. But it's not like I've ever, to either one of them, given an inch on what my beliefs are.
The conversation started with Bill Maher asking Tim P. what he thought about today's politics. Tim didn't hold back. He talked about how the growing divide is tearing the country apart, warning about the dangerous extremes on both sides. But Maher wasn't playing it safe either. With a sharp look, he sparked controversy by saying the left can't handle that he's willing to talk with his political opponents, especially Donald Trump. That statement shocked many. People expected a clash between Maher and Tim, but instead, they surprised everyone by teaming up to criticize the Democrats strongly. And that wasn't even the biggest moment. The real shocker was still coming. Just wait until you hear what Maher said next.
There are big problems, I think, politically. It's like this idea that we're the good people. We know we know what's good. And anyone who doesn't agree with that, well, they're an existential threat to America. And that happens on both sides.
I agree, but you know, it is a weird position for me to be in. I was talking to some friends before the show, and I was saying, like, I think that if you and I discussed policy solutions for the country, I'd probably be to the left of you. But
in some ways, yeah.
Probably most ways.
You like Bernie.
I did.
I like Bernie, but I don't want socialism in America.
You know,
more than what we have. We already have plenty.
But the issue is, today I feel like what defines someone politically is not it's not the policies they want, but it's what they believe to be true.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, Matt Taibbi writes about this.
I'm a big fan, he's amazing.
The talk was still early, but you could feel the tension rising. There's a risky comfort in always thinking your side is the good guys, and that the other side threatens democracy. Maher said this happens on both sides, and I agree. But he pointed out it's much more common on the left. That's why he didn't hold back when he brought up Bernie Sanders. Sanders, a proud socialist, presents himself as the moral leader while blaming capitalists for hurting the country. But Maher wasn't convinced. In a sharp and clear attack, he called out the hypocrisy in that story. It was a classic Maher moment, direct and strong, but you could tell he was just getting started. The real hit was still ahead.
Modus operandi of news organizations used to be informing the public, and then it became audience stroking. How can we interpret this thing that just happened in such a way that our audience will give us likes?
Yep.
I like that. I like you said it that way. I like your point of view because that's what I already think, and I hate them, and so I like.
He's right.
He's right.
Yeah.
No, and it's just.
I worked for ABC. Started ABC New Division did a joint venture in 2014 called Fusion, and I was at Vice, and I moved over there, and then they told me that the new trend was going to be called mission-driven storytelling, and I said, "What does that mean?" And they said, "There's no such thing as objectivity. Everyone is subjective, so we're going to tell the stories that our audience wants to hear." I had a meeting with the president, and he was talking to me about this, and I said, "Does that mean if there is a news story that is true and important, we would choose not to report it because it might upset our audience?" And he said, "Yeah, I think that's fair." The company went bankrupt. They fired everybody. But this wasn't unique to them. They were chasing the trend. One of their marketing guys told me explicitly, "We want to maximize shares because we have to maximize views."
Tim Pool shared a tough truth. Not exactly new, but a harsh reminder of what happens when news turns into a show. It's a clear example of how biased reporting can damage a news network from within. People want real, honest, and fair news, but instead, networks focus on clicks, ratings, and outrage. By doing that, they lost something far more important: the public's trust. So, is it any surprise the Democrats lost the election? Voters saw right through the echo chambers on left-leaning channels like ABC. And if you think that's serious, just wait until you hear what Pool revealed next.
To maximize views. We have to maximize views because we've already sold a set amount to the advertisers. One company bought 500,000 views from us. We don't complete that contract until those views are delivered. How do we deliver them? Angering moms. Middle-aged women who are angry share more than anyone else, so we're going to write stories that do that. That's actually what he told me. So it was social justice, it was racism.
I just pictured my writers all guffawing just because, I've had like a writer's room since 1993, Politically Incorrect.
Yeah, wow.
That show went on there. So
I was a little kid.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's, the joy of my life. One of the great joys is having a writer's room. I've said this before, but like Paul McCartney once said, "I'd rather have a band than a Rolls Royce."
Tim then dropped a shocking statement that made everyone fall quiet. You might wonder, how does this all tie back to the Democrats? Here's a question for you. Who's always turning up the political heat? Who uses identity politics like a winning strategy? The Democrats and the DNC. When you look closely, the pattern is clear. This isn't just politics. It seems planned, driven by division, and meant to create unrest. Think that sounds far-fetched? Think again. Everything points to one troubling idea. The DNC might have purposely stirred up chaos to help themselves politically. And what Tim said next? It takes this whole story to a completely new level.
Politics are like, if you were, I'm like a Chicago liberal, but the way things have gone, especially with like the woke stuff, and this is where I end up in this position, and so does my neighborhood. I think it's interesting to see my neighborhood reflective of my politics and vice versa.
I think the phrase I was using last year was aggressively non-common sense or uncommonsensical. And it's like I accent aggressively. I don't think the woke people who have the vast amount of energy really in the Democratic Party understand why the people vote against them. And it's like, because if you add up like how many people are really affected by some of the aggressively uncommon sense things, it's probably not that many.
You had a great bit on that.
Yeah.
How many of you knew Tim P is actually a liberal? Yes, you heard that right. Not a conservative or a far-right agitator, but a liberal. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Until the left separates itself from the aggressively woke side within its own party, whether that's a loud minority or quiet majority, the Democrats will keep losing votes. People like Tim didn't leave the left because they stopped caring about civil rights, economic change, or social justice. They left because the conversation was taken over. Now, even a small disagreement with progressive ideas can get you labeled a traitor. That's not growth, that's exile. The Democrats don't need a new image. They need to face reality. Voters aren't switching sides overnight. They're just tired of being told what to think, what to say, and who they can question. If Maher and Tim Pool are raising the alarm, maybe it's time for the left to listen before it's too late. Mars is about to take things up a notch. Watch this.
When you add up these things and, men competing in women's sports and just too much indoctrination of children with sexual ideas that they're too young to understand. Like when you add up all these things that get in the media a lot, it paints a picture, not a wrong picture, in the mind of the average voter that, yeah, maybe policy-wise I would do better under the Democrats or Bernie Sanders, but these other people just seem fucking crazy. They seem like committed to just going to absurd lengths just for shits and giggles, just for the fuck of it, just this bizarre attachment to things that are just ridiculous.
I do think that the way the Democratic Party has handled opposition has guaranteed the kind of Trumpian politics.
Well, I'm sure you heard about my little trip to the White House.
Absolutely.
And
very impressive.
Thank you. And the thing that upset the far left so much, these same people who believe in the crazy things I was just mentioning, and the ones who really hate me, they really found a new reason to hate me, because when I came back and gave my report about it, among the things I said, to your point about everything is he crazy, was, I think, word for word, a crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV lives in the White House.
Yeah.
And they found that very triggering. That was my estimation. Again, to your point about, is he just crazy? When you meet him in person and spend that kind of time, and he's not on his his attack mode thing, he does not strike you as a crazy person, or a person who doesn't listen or can't hear things. Again, they were very mad at me for saying this, but that's what happened. And I am not a liar. That's my main bond with the audience. So even if I offended some people by telling the truth, in the long run, that's what I do.